Hi, this is Linda Patten, international speaker, best-selling author, and the creator of The Art of Herding Cats Leading Teams of Leaders, a 12-step program that transcends reluctant leaders into powerfully successful leaders. And this is my Leadership Stars program, where I bring together for all of you some really powerful leaders who have beliefs about the how of leadership and some really great tips to give you as well. So they're going to be talking about sort of the other side of leadership, not just the talent and not just the traditional stuff that you hear, but actually some really innovative and creative kinds of things. And today I have one of the most creative, innovative people I could possibly think of. Her name is Christina Marlett, and she's from Canada. So if you notice a little bit of an accent, that's where it comes from. And Christina is the owner and founder of Dance Ugly, Dance Awkward. So let's welcome Christina to our program. Christina, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Linda. I feel really honored to be able to speak with you and your listeners. And let me see what I can tell you about Dance Ugly, Dance Awkward. So it comes from, I'm a recovering perfectionist.
Ooh.
And for most of my life, everything had to be perfect. And if it didn't, then it was meant as failure, or that's how I perceived it. Mm-hmm. And people would give me compliments. Well, I thought they were compliments at the time, like, you're such a perfectionist. And I'd be like, oh, thanks for noticing. And then I learned that being a perfectionist is when you can't really surrender control, and when you feel like you have to do everything yourself and you don't let other people in to help you. And that's when I really got clear about my business, Dance Ugly, Dance Awkward. So as the name implies, there's movement involved, and it's not just for dancers, it's for everyone who has a body. So that's all of us. And it's kind of a two-part road that I've been on. So growing up as a dancer, I competed, and it was all about perfection. And it wasn't until I started doing personal development several years ago now that I realized that movement, when it's mindful or conscious, mm-hmm. it can be an incredible path into our emotions, and it can be soothing and very healing. So that's the Dance Ugly, Dance Awkward. It's giving everyone permission to show up as exactly who they are, me included. And so the second path is all about me, and it's that the ugliness and the awkwardness is part of the journey. And what really happens when we are vulnerable enough to express that awkwardness and share it with others, what happens is it shows up as exquisitely beautiful. And that's both in movement and in our lives. If we're willing to let people in on our journey and be brave and courageous and be exactly who we are our own greatest work of art. And that's where the awkward and ugly shows up for me. And the name is always a reminder to help me in my business that, okay, this isn't perfect, but it's done. Or it's not perfect, but I'm sharing. And that has been incredibly powerful.
Christina, I know from where you're coming. My mom was a perfectionist. And in fact, I remember doing a skirt for 4-H. And I swear, after I would sew a seam or put in the waistband or hem it, that overnight the fairies, my mother, would take it all apart and re-sew it. And, oh yeah. So I understand the whole thing about being a perfectionist to the nth degree. It's interesting though, and I think that many of my reluctant leaders, part of the reason that they're reluctant is because of that perfectionist gene. They seem to feel that if they make a mistake with their followers, that they will ruin their lives forever. And I know as a mom and a wife that I didn't get an owner's manual when my kids were born or when I got married. And yet we still step into those roles where there is no guidance really, and we're expected to be perfectionists. And yet we're willing to do that. We're willing to make mistakes there, but not in leadership. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Absolutely. it brought to mind a story that just happened to me last week as a mother. I was trying to help my 10-year-old daughter through a difficult situation, and very well, I totally messed up. And my husband was also there, and he contributed his ideas. And I just thought, oh, thank you so much, because in that moment, I realized I don't have to be the perfect mom. We are a team, and we are totally in this together. And when I see it as not him overriding what I said or trying to make it better, he's taking off where I left off and improving it. So the experience for my daughter is so much better. And as a leader, that can be the same thing. Like, a leader is not all alone at the top of anything. A leader is in it with people, and it's so much about relationships and emotions, which I'll talk about a little bit later. And vulnerability is a big thing right now, like with Brené Brown teaching people how to be vulnerable. And I like take further just off the page or listening to a talk, but really helping people get full body integration. And so that is so important in leadership, being comfortable in your body, being willing to express your true self, and being okay with people not necessarily loving you in that moment. And that's something that I've learned along the way is I love the idea. I heard it once and I've tweaked it a little bit. We're each our own work of art, and a great work of art will polarize people. So it's good if some people don't resonate and some people do. That is what a true work of art is about. And ever since I've integrated that message, I feel so much better about some people saying, yeah, you're not for me. And I think, good, I won't have that energy tied up then and try to pursue something with you. Instead, I can keep it open and let the people who do resonate be attracted to me.
Right. And that way you're not forcing what you want to do. It's, again, the round peg in the square hole, or the square peg in the round hole. You want individuals who resonate with you and understand your message. Now, one of the things you asked me was, what is missing out of leadership development? And I was really curious, because I do teach leadership. I teach the how of leadership, not the why. And I was just curious, what's missing in leadership development from your perspective?
Well, I believe that our whole learning process, our relationship with how we learn, is actually quite broken. If you look at the school system and education from the beginning, it's kind of from the waist up as little people. And then as we get older, it's kind of mostly from the neck up. And then if we go into higher levels of education, it's very one-sided, like left brain. And that is what's valued. But if you look at children and how they learn, they best learn through play and through movement. Yeah. And so what I feel is missing from most leadership training is getting our bodies into it. It's so much up here, and we try to sort out everything in our minds and figure out solutions to our problems. And it's a very cognitive and cerebral process, which is good to a certain extent. But also in our mind is that trickster eyes to us. And so what I love to incorporate into leadership training and learning is how to access our body's wisdom. There is so much wisdom here. And sometimes when I say that, people don't even have a clue of what I'm talking about, because we're so cerebral. But when we learn how to access guidance through our bodies, the gift of that is that our bodies always, 100% of the time, tell us the truth. And once we learn how to figure that out, we don't have to second guess any decisions that we make. I teach people how to make full-bodied decisions, so that it's not just the mind with the ego in there, it's the full body. So you can count on it being exactly the right choice for you in that moment, and you don't have to waste energy wondering if, oh, should I have done that or should I not? Should I have said that to that person? And it also gives you your body gives you great direction on where you should go. And often it doesn't make sense in the moment, but that's good. If it doesn't make sense, that means your mind isn't in control, which is great. And that's also the surrender and the release of perfectionism that I was talking about, was to get into our bodies where we don't have to make all the decisions. It's not up to our brain and the ego. It's a full-bodied experience, and then we can incorporate that deep guidance. So I like to teach people to move and to access that guidance, and also then some of the emotional mastery that comes in there as well.
Okay. Christina, one of the things that you said is so very powerful, again, about the body and about getting out of your head and getting more into your emotions. You'd spoken earlier about the trend now towards vulnerability and authenticity. And I know one of the, in fact, is the second step in the 12-step program is around creating personal vision. And one of the things I learned was just writing it isn't enough. And just creating a vision board isn't enough. But indeed, you have to get all 5 senses involved in that vision in order to make it a really powerful vision that your reticular activating system can then go out and begin looking for it. So does the body have, again, a place in building that vision in such a way that the reticular activating system can move forward?
Oh, for sure. If we learn something in our mind, it can easily slip out or get replaced.
Or the little man with the file cabinet can't find it.
That's right. Yeah, the key goes missing. When we learn something with our whole body, we have a cellular memory, and we become so much more magnetic to what we're seeking. So I have an example of a story that that will explain that. So in one of my personal development courses, we had to hike up a mountain, and we had to carry bricks in a backpack. And you could help people with their bricks. So at that point, I didn't know very much about who I was, and I took on a lot of other people's bricks. And I was walking along, and I thought, I am so strong. I'm amazing. I don't need help. And then it was a long hike, and I helped all sorts of people. And then then I was really slow because I had helped some other people who were struggling to get up the mountain. And I was going down, and some people who had already finished and had come back to help said, why don't we take some of your bricks out of your backpack? And I thought, well, I would usually say no. So this is a chance to show up differently. And so I let them take my bricks out. And the metaphor, of course, was carrying other people's baggage and your own. And when I gave away those bricks, that extra baggage, I got with my whole body what an energetic drain it is to carry all that emotional baggage. And every time I feel like I need to do something myself, all my cells remind me, why would I do that? When I took those bricks out and gave them away and I gave people the gift of helping me, I literally felt like I could fly down the mountain. Like I was skipping, and I thought before that I was tired. And that's so much more powerful for me to experience that. And that's how it's so much more important to experience full-bodied wisdom. It's so much more powerful than me just telling you. Like, I know you can imagine how good that would feel, but until you have that experience, it's only a cognitive memory, so easy to forget.
Right. So tell me, the body obviously is very important, and it has a huge role in leadership. So how can people connect more effectively with that, since it appears that we've sort of cut it off, if not here, maybe up here, but that we're not in touch with what's going on in our body, how it makes decisions, how it can help us to say yes or to say no to things.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And the solution is actually so easy. It is incorporating mindful movement. If you don't like the word dance, it doesn't have to be dance. Mindful movement. So it's not about just turning on music and moving. That is helpful and can be very therapeutic. But what I like to teach people is to move with a reason, and then to unpack the metaphor. So for example, I've run a workshop on full body decision making, and I'll tell you a story about Sarah. So Sarah was unclear about whether she wanted to go back to work or not. Her kids were still pretty young. She was getting pressure from her husband to go back to work as a teacher. And she had thought a lot about it, written out pros and cons, asked other people for their input. She still wasn't sure. And so we did a process that I've created called a dancing discovery. So that's when you ask a question, like you might do some journaling, or we were in a workshop, so everyone shared what their question was. And Sarah's question was, should I go back to work? And it's easiest if it's a yes or no answer that you're looking for. And then we just did a bit of guided movement, and then I let people move more freely. So what that helps you do is get into the present and get out of your mind and open up for this wisdom to come through. And then at the end of the music, I asked everyone, okay, ask your question again, and you're going to get a sensation. If it's an expansive sensation, if there's warm or there's tingling, that is a yes. Doesn't have to resonate with what's in your mind. All you need to do is look to your body, and it might be in different areas of your body. If it's a no, it's going to be tight. There's going to be clenching, that kind of thing. And Sarah, when we debriefed afterwards, so after the dancing discovery, I like to verbalize what happened, which is so powerful. And then that authentic connection is happening, and
absolutely
each other, and it's just so yummy. So what Sarah said was, a minute into the dance, she got a full-bodied no that she did not want to go back to work. And she said it was so clear. It was so much more powerful than any of the pros and cons or any of the advice she'd gotten. She didn't have to seek outside of herself. All the answers are within us. And then she said the rest of the time, she just had these beautiful visions of all the fun she was going to have with her children. And she knew that teaching could wait.
Wow, that is really, really powerful. And you're absolutely correct. I get tingles when it's truth. And I always thought that was really kind of amazing. It was like, somebody standing behind me and just creating tingles up and down my back. But Christina, many of the people that are listening to this have teams that are far-flung across the world, across the states. And how do you incorporate this kind of teaching and developing relationships with the full body when you've got a team that's sort of spread out all over the world and you can't do it face to face?
Well, we have the magic of Skype, which is always fantastic.
Or Google Hangouts, right?
Yeah, and Google Hangouts, of course, where we are right now. And so what I found is when I work with clients who aren't nearby to me, the connection is just as good as if we were in the same room together. And there are certainly processes that people could do with their teams, whether it's one-to-one, if you're doing some one-to-one coaching with a team member, or if it's a group meeting or experience. I would so recommend getting a little bit of movement in there. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to look good. I always invite people to close their eyes, but it's a really a unique way of connecting. What dance does is it activates our communication center, which scientists were fascinated to discover. They thought it was just more the artistic. It's actually communicating when we move, whether our eyes are open or not. And it would be so helpful for people just to do a little bit of, it can even be neck circles or even stretching. I like to teach affirmative stretching. So when you're doing affirmations, getting your body in there, for example, I am open and abundant, or open and receptive to all the abundance in the universe. And when you actually open up your arms and say that, it feels so much more true than repeating it in your mind. Right. So those are some ideas that people incorporate. If you're with local people and you can go for a walk or get some movement in, like, we're just so sedentary and that's not serving us. And it's so important to get the blood flowing, because creativity and much better connection occurs when we do move our bodies purposefully.
Yeah, and it's interesting that so many of us have moved to meditation, which yes, it could be walking meditation, but so many of us think that it's sitting on a couch, on a chair, on a pillow, whatever, and stilling the mind and not moving. And what you're talking about sounds more like getting the body to move and getting sort of that sense of feeling and emotion and vulnerability through the full body, not just sitting and being sedentary, and sort of hoping that your mind clears and that you don't, nothing runs through, and that kind of thing. So how compare and contrast what you do to, let's say, stationary meditation?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked me about that because I love talking about this. I love the idea that finding inner peace and stillness doesn't mean that your body is still.
Okay.
Often, especially for women, we actually find more peace through movement.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at meditation, the way that it's been taught, if you look at yoga, the way it's being taught, it has very masculine energy. So masculine energy, I'll just explain briefly, is very structured. There's control, there's overcoming. There's nothing wrong with masculine energy. We need harmony between both feminine and masculine energy to survive and to show up as our best selves. Most things in our society now are masculine energy, and feminine energy is starting to make itself more known and heard. So feminine energy is more about movement, about flow, about adaptability. And a quick example is, if you look in nature, everything is an example of the perfect blend between masculine and feminine energy. So a tree, the trunk and the branches and the leaves, all the form of the tree is the masculine energy. And the feminine energy is the sap and the nutrients flowing through. It's the movement, and it gives life. It creates the tree. Now, if we didn't have the masculine form and structure, we would have no tree. And if we didn't have the feminine, there would be no life in the tree. And so what that means for women especially is meditation does not have to be done seated. When we do meditation, I teach those. I'm going to do some online classes with that as well. It is so much easier for me, I noticed, and for a lot of my clients, they've commented, to get into the zone of meditation almost immediately through movement. Whereas when you're sitting there, you're trying to quiet your mind, you have thoughts popping in, and you're like, oh, please, that's nice, and please go away and drift away like a cloud. And with the movement, it just brings our energy to exactly what's going on in our bodies, and it cultivates such a rich and powerful connection with our bodies that it works so much better.
Yeah, I so agree, because I have sort of a freeway running through my mind. So when I'm asked to sit quietly and say thank you very much and move on, it doesn't work. But I like the idea of moving and being more cognizant of that and the body doing its thing than trying to clear your mind. And that sounds fabulous. And it sounds like something that can easily be done on the phone, on Skype, in a group, and really get people energized and motivated to step into the next thing. And would you agree?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we're getting down to the last few minutes, Christina, and I know that you have a free gift for our audience. So if you would describe it and then tell folks how they can get it, that'd be awesome.
Sure, I'd love to. So I've written a book called How to Dance Ugly and Other Unusual Ways to Feel Happier. And it's not so much a book as an experience. So I will get you up out of your seat as you're reading the book to try the exercises that are presented in there, because like I said, I want to broaden our definition of how we learn and play and show up in our bodies. And so it is about connecting more with your body. It's about learning how to be less perfect, if that's an issue that you have. I think it's pretty pervasive. Yes. And surrendering control. And what I love is getting to know myself better. And so I created that experience in the book. I truly believe that we are the most important thing we can do in this life is discover who we are and then share that with others. And so this book is a guide to how to do that in a fun and unusual way.
And how they can get that?
Oh yeah. So it's there's a web page that you can go to. It's at danceugly.com/complimentary-ebook.
Very good. I know you talked about dancing and dancing competitively, and both my daughters did that. And it was so much fun recently to watch them do stuff that had, no structure, no nothing. One of my daughters decided to play with burlesque and just had a blast because there was no designed form around it. So it sounds like the ebook will get us up off our chairs and out of our perfectionist stance and really just enjoy dancing ugly and dancing awkward. Yeah?
Yeah. I had one person comment to me after she read it, because it was like there was a cheerleader cheering her on throughout the book, which would be me.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Christina, for being here. And for those of you who are interested in stepping up, stepping out, and stepping into your leadership, I do have a free offer for you as well. If you'll go to www.darewithlynda.com/herding-cats-2, you'll get an assessment that basically is the 10 top indicators of great leaders. Take the assessment, see where you stand. You also get the first lesson and the first step of the art of herding cats, leading teams of leaders. And just so you know, the book comes out September 28th, 2015. If you'd like more information about that, do go to the website, send me an email, and I'll be happy to send you information on how you can get that. So Christina, it's been an absolute joy to have you here. Thank you so very much for sharing from Canada. And for those of you who are listening, just to know, Leadership Stars does air the second Tuesday of every month, usually around 3 o'clock, although I believe next month we're going to be early in the day because my guest is on the East Coast, and so we're going to honor her ability to be on early during the day. So thank you very much, and I'll leave you with be courageous, dare to lead. Thank you.